The other day, I played an online chess arena and thought it was going to be an arena like any other. I mean, I saw different streamers like Hikaru participating, and I thought that was cool, but we streamers play chess all the time. We love it. So I didn't think more about it. But then all of a sudden, I saw a new name pop up in the participation list. And I said, is this the guy that beat Magnus Carlsen a few weeks ago in a classical game? Is this the guy that won Tedestal Chess Masters? Anish Giri had joined the arena. And you may say, okay, Anna, that's not a big deal. But it is. Because one, he's one of the strongest chess players in the world right now. He's at his peak form. And two, he hadn't played a Chess.com game in months. So this was a surprise to everyone. But I said, okay, this is really cool, but there's no way I'll play him. He's 1,000 points higher rated than me. And so I played the first game, I was chatting, I played the second one, I was laughing, smiling, chatting, all the stuff that I do, and then boom, you're playing Anish Giri, it said on the screen. And I was shaking. I was trembling with fear because I knew I was playing a 3,200 rated guy, and I knew I had to bring the A game. So this, everybody, is my attempt at beating one of the strongest chess players in the world. This is how it went. All right, so he started with the move e4, and I went c5, knight f3, e6. We had a normal Sicilian. I love the Sicilian. This is what I play. And now, typically people go d4 to go for the open Sicilian. This is the most standard thing. But he went knight c3, and knight c3 is sort of saying, hey, what are you gonna do? I'm kind of waiting with going d4, but maybe I'll go somewhere else. And that's exactly what he did. After I brought my knight out, really hoping that he was gonna go d4 because that's where I know the most theory of, he decided to go bishop b5, and this is called the Rosolimo. And let me tell you guys, I was not happy. I've always had issues against this opening because I never really know what exactly to do with this bishop. And so I wasn't really that happy here. And he was blitzing out these moves. I mean, you can see that he has a second on the clock right now. So I decided to go for the move that I typically go for, but I typically play against 2,000 rated people and not 3,200. So I went a6, kicking away the bishop, and I knew that this is not the best opening move, but I thought it's fine. I thought it's fine. It's not terrible, and I sort of understand the ideas here. So I decided, so he captured my knight, and here you can capture either with the D pawn or with the B pawn. So you kind of have a choice here of how you recapture this bishop. And I decided that I'm going to capture it with the D pawn because I wanted to go ahead and push my pawns over here, and I kind of thought that taking with this pawn just wouldn't be as good, so I thought this was okay. And now if he ever goes d4 and goes for an open Sicilian, I'll be able to capture and then push and then get my bishop over here. So he castled, I got my knight out, and then we went developing a little bit, and now he went e5. And when he went e5, I honestly have so many nightmares from positions like this because it's always the same thing that happens. I get checkmated. I mean, I don't know how to tell you guys, but this move, you may say, okay, but this is, you just push a pawn. But it's not just a pawn push. This pawn right here, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to move this pawn around. I just want to show you. This pawn is an incredibly strong pawn, especially when I can never exchange the pawn with a move such as d6 because my pawn is over here. This pawn is super strong because it basically controls this square that is one of the squares that I need for my knight to be able to defend the king. With the knight on f6, you can pretty much never get checkmated. Kind of, So when my knight cannot be there anymore and there's no way for me to ever get it back here because it's really hard to exchange this pawn, I'm actually in trouble. And because of that reason, Anish is already better in this position after 8 moves. So I went knight c5 because I wanted to have the knight in the center, and now I brought in another knight, once again reinforcing the idea that this pawn is so strong. He's going to be able to bring up at some point maybe a knight over here to d6. And with the knight over here, he's going to control so many of my squares. He's going to limit my pieces from being able to get out. And, well, I mean, it never feels good when there's a knight over here on the 6th rank right in front staring at you. So I knew here that I was in trouble, but I said, okay, I still have my bishop. I can still always take this if the knight comes up over here. So I castled, he went rook e1, and then I decided to go b5 because I thought, okay, I cannot do anything in the center. I cannot push my pawns on the king side. I gotta push my pawns somewhere, so I'll push them on the queen side. And I wanted to try to get some sort of space somewhere. I mean, he has so much space over here in the center, so I really wanted to try to get some space somewhere. So b5, and then he went queen e2, and I decided to go a5. I kept on pushing my pawns. Now he went c4, kicking away my knight, and I don't want to take here because if I take immediately, then we can see that these pawns will become very, very sad. They will be doubled. So I decided to bring my knight up and threaten this pawn on d3. I was really hoping that he would capture my pawn on b5 at some point because then I'd be able to get a perfect pawn structure over here. But of course, he started by defending the pawn on d3. And then here I went queen c7 just to get my queen out of this file because I thought, okay, the rook is in the same file as my queen. And I thought that maybe one idea he would have was at some point to start pushing this pawn and try to open up the whole file for the rook because rooks, they want to be in open files. That's where they belong. And that's where they're the most useful. But he decided to develop. He went bishop e3, and I started realizing, wait a second, where does this knight go? This knight doesn't have that many squares. So bishop e3, I went knight a6 to defend this pawn on c5 as there were two pieces attacking it. But this knight over here is not fantastic. He went rook ac1, and I said, you know what? I need to close down the position because he's right now threatening to take, and then take this pawn on c5, as we can see that if I would capture back at some point, he'd be able to push this pawn on d4, and then there is this pin over here, as the bishop wouldn't be able to move because the rook and the queen are in the same file. So I wanted to be really careful with not losing this pawn. And I mean, if there's a tactic, Anish is gonna see it. I may not see it, but Anish will see it because, like I said, playing as Anish, it's like playing against an engine. Like, it's one of the closest human forms to an engine we have. So I cannot make any mistakes, especially not tactical mistakes. So I went b4 to just simply close down the queen side. And now he went bishop f4. Now when he went here, I thought his idea was to bring up his knight to d6 maybe. And once again, try to reinforce maybe a knight over here. Try then maybe to bring a knight over here. Or maybe his plan was to push d4, but actually he had a different plan in mind that I was not thinking about. So here, I probably needed to try to deal with this knight because we can see right now in this position that Anish has this knight, which is fantastic, this bishop, which is fantastic, this queen, which is okay, not yet fantastic, but it's not bad, and then these two rooks, which are placed in the best squares. I mean, all of Anish's pieces are on good squares. Now, if we look at my pieces instead, my bishop is not developed. This knight, no squares that are good. The rooks, they aren't active, and this bishop is just defending. It's not active. So we can see that my pieces need a makeover right now. My pieces need to find a better spot. So one idea for me here would have been to go knight b8, knight d7, and then knight f8 and knight g6. You always want to kind of think about what is the final destination for my piece. And for this knight, we can see that a final destination that would be good would be to go perhaps to g6. Or to f8 to simply attack or defend the king. So here instead, I went rook d8 because I didn't understand that, and I still thought that his plan was simply to push the d pawn and just open up for this rook. But like I said, I didn't know what his real plan was. So he went queen e3, and I went queen d7. I wanted to bring this queen into the defense, and I wanted to open up this square for the knight. I thought that maybe this could be a good idea for the knight, or a good path for it. And now he went h4. And when he went h4, I realized, okay, Anish is attacking me. Anish is going to throw all his pieces towards my king, and he's going to go for a brutal attack. So I got to defend myself. I really do. And I thought, okay, what is the best way of defending yourself? Well, using your best piece. So I decided to bring the queen to the defense. And now he kept on attacking. He went bishop g5, and I said, okay, maybe he wants to exchange this bishop for this one because this is the bishop that is stopping the knight from coming up to d6. But we can see that my ideas were constantly, I thought he wants to bring this knight to d6. I thought he wants to push. I didn't exactly see how he was going to checkmate me with all my pieces being close to the king. So I went h6, and I said, okay, what are you going to do? And in this position, Anish found a brilliant move. I mean, it was a beautiful move that was completely unexpected for me. And when he did it, I jumped. Like, I pretty much jumped on my seat. He went here, knight f6, check. And this, at first, the engine says, oh, this is a bad move. But then the engine starts thinking and reaches the level of Anish Giri and says, oh man, this is a fantastic chess move. What is the idea? Well, the idea is that this is a fork. Right now, both my king and the queen, my king is in check and my queen is hanging. So I need to deal with the knight. I cannot just simply move my king because then he's going to take my queen. So I need to capture this knight. Now, I have two ways I can capture the knight. I can either take with the pawn or I can take with the bishop. So in this position, I had 30 seconds left. I was starting to get into time trouble, and I decided that I was going to take with the pawn because I thought that if I take with the pawn, I couldn't see how he was going to checkmate me. Now, I could also take with the bishop, but if I take with the bishop, the reason I didn't like it was because we can see that after it takes and takes, after it takes and takes, this pawn on f6 with the queen are both pointing down towards g7. So right now, if I don't do anything, I'm getting checkmated the next move. And if the queen moves over here to defend the checkmate, he can capture my pawn in front of my king, threaten the queen. And now if the queen captures, this rook over here is hanging. So I saw this and I thought this was really scary. And so, okay, I said, this doesn't work. I need to capture with the pawn. But here, he captured back. And at first I thought that, my bishop retreating to f8, defending on h6 was totally fine. Because I thought that after he goes takes, I can simply go takes, queen f8, stop the checkmate. But I missed that he has this beautiful, beautiful queen g5 check, checking my king and allowing himself to get to h5 so that he can bring the knight up and checkmate me on h7. So I saw this and I said, man, I cannot capture this bishop. I need to move up my king. So I went up with my king. I was very low on time, but then I saw that he has knight g5 check. I moved the king and he had this move queen e4. And now it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to have the same fate. There's nothing I can do to stop queen h7 checkmate. So I captured the bishop, and here Anish Giri checkmated me after 25 moves. Crazy game. Definitely got a bad opening, but I thought it was okay. But Anish just played so well. Anish just kept on playing the best moves all the time, and this is how it ended. He actually did this in 45 seconds. We can see that I only used 45 seconds of his clock. So Anish Giri, he's a machine. He is, like I said, the closest you can become to an engine as a human. Super strong player, but I was really honored that I got to play a player like him. So I hope that you enjoyed the analysis and the video, and thank you guys so much for watching. We will see when the next time is that I play a Super GM.